Hey everyone, hope you've all been doing well. As you can see by the runtime, this is a bit of a different video from my usual stuff. This isn't really a tutorial, it's more of a behind the scenes of my music making process. I enjoy commentary videos of like people talking while they're doing speed paints or even writing music, so I thought I'd try my own take on it, and that's what this is. This is an easy way for us we're sort of chilling together, you know, it's kind of easy. I'm just talking, you're just watching. We're all having a good time and chilling. And I don't know, you might learn something, which would be cool too. So yeah, let's get into it. So the first thing I do is add a mastering chain, which probably sounds really weird because mastering is usually the last step in music production. But I have a template that I build that I use in every single song, and I just throw it in there, make a few minor tweaks, and then I will adjust it accordingly at the end of the production. It's sort of just a way for me to kind of listen to how it will sound because it's making it louder, so it just makes it easier and consistent and honestly much faster. So to start writing, I almost always have a reference track, just in the same way you have a reference for doing a drawing. Sometimes I take inspiration from the tempo, the structure, the meter, and the key, but it's usually the vibe that I'm more referencing. And the way I would describe it is, when I'm listening to music that isn't mine, just enjoying music as a normal civilian, I'm always imagining kind of like a music video to go with that vibe, or like a scenario or like a movie scene. And whatever vibes and moods I get from that imaginary scene is how I associate the song sounding. So when I'm referencing a track, it's more about me wanting to write something that would also suit the scene that I'm imagining, rather than making it extremely similar to the song that I'm getting the scene idea from, if that makes any sense. Growing up, I'd always imagine myself conducting an orchestra, playing whatever song I was listening to, which was often film or game soundtracks, and I'd pretend that I was the composer of that song, and I was conducting it like as if we were recording it for a film. And usually the members of my orchestra would be the Pokemon in my childhood teams, but but I do usually associate certain moods with certain keys. For example, G minor is my go-to epic, more intense key for the battle themes and the evil guys or all that cool stuff. Well, C minor is for the cool jazzy themes. But we're just chilling here. I'm not gonna bombard you with music theory. But I've been experimenting with a lot of different genres lately, trying to write styles from all over the world. This is me trying to expand my horizon of my catalog, but it also gives me some more variety and a cool way of making up more of those music videos in my head. And I think also helps with combining random concepts together for inspiration. Speaking of which, this time I'm writing a Celtic-ish style lullaby and waltz, which sounds really sweet, too sweet. So it's a lullaby for an underground, dangerous lava cavern. I personally find that combining opposites can create really interesting results for both my music and my art, as in like my drawings. I want to make something like this after I was listening to some more folky, medieval type remixes of some Toho music recently, so I kind of was like, oh, I want to try that. That seems like a lot of fun. Having inspiration and almost sort of like a story makes the process really fun for me, and I think that in combination with all the media I enjoy, it really contributes to the sound of my music. You gotta see the music, you gotta taste the music. So I always have the vibe in my head, but almost never a plan. My music production always starts with a part that I can repeat, whether that be a chord progression, an ostinato, or a melody, whatever the vibe calls for. This time I had recorded some chord ideas in advance, More often than not with chords, this will repeat throughout the whole song, providing a blueprint for the song layout, as well as something for me to improvise melodies over. This time, the chords are being played by the piano. Once I have that, it's pretty much just a improvisation free-for-all. Usually the instruments I start recording are the strings, because as an instrument family, they have the widest octave range, and like everyone likes strings. Who doesn't like strings? If not the strings, sometimes I'll do piano or flute. Piano also because it just has a wide range and it's my instrument, so I guess I know what to expect from it. And flute just because I've been using the flute a lot lately, so having fun with that. But depending on how the production goes, I might just move that same recording to a different instrument. I think I did that a lot in this track too. I'll just paste it onto a different instrument, see how it goes. If I don't like it, rinse and repeat. As you can see on screen, I'm just winging each take. Sometimes I get it on the first try, and sometimes it takes a few recordings to get something I like. It's totally different every time. Sometimes I find it super helpful, though, is staying within a certain range of notes and sort of dancing about the keys. I'm a huge fan of leitmotifs, repeating ideas, and similar phrases to make a song sound more connected. So usually every part or counter melody in my songs is just some variation of the main melody. And that's what I did in this song, as well as the majority of my catalog. It also makes things easier and saves a lot of time. Speaking of time, I know the stuff on screen is moving really fast. It's a little bit tricky to narrate over since it just keeps on going and going. From beginning to end, this song's production was just over an hour or so, but I sped up the footage a little so it wouldn't have I wouldn't have just like a crazy long video. It's just me rambling too, you know. I often find that 1 to 2 hours of work for a song gets me to produce the best results. Not that I'm rushing to finish in that amount of time, but I think I've said so before. But when I don't think about things too much, that's when I write best. And is anyone else like that? No way I'm the only one, right? Just turn your brain off and go, I guess. In recent years, I don't think I've spent more than 4 hours or so on a single piece. I got particularly fast when we had songwriting challenges back in school, and with what I learned from those classes combined with my writing system that I always use, I can usually get a decent song in a couple hours or less. That time accounting for the inception, composing, recording, mixing, mastering, and exporting, so not too bad. To any non-music producers, that might sound a bit insane, but here's my secret sauce. As you can probably see on screen, there's a lot of copying and pasting going on. This is all part of that making the song feel connected thing. It's not a bug, it's a feature. I'll often just take parts I've recorded and duplicate them throughout the song. I always record parts in sections of 2, 4, 8, or 16 bars, as those are easy multiples and easy to duplicate and place around in pattern to standard song structure sections. Oh my goodness. Standard song structure sections. I don't even have to think about writing to those durations because those amounts of time just come naturally, and if you're also a musician, you might know exactly what I mean. We as humans, we like patterns, and these little loopable sections are just pattern recognition. So I can quickly make a 4-minute song by duplicating these parts, switching around small elements and instruments, and bam, song. So cool, very epic. It's all an illusion. It's deceptively simple. I find that if I switch things up in the multiples of these loopable parts, the song never gets stale. If I hadn't pointed that out, would you have noticed how repetitive my stuff is? Well, that's the secret. But I think most musicians also use that secret, so damn. With all these pieces of repetition among different instruments and ranges, that just adds even more to the blueprint for me to further improvise over. I hope that makes sense. I'm just making it all up as I go along here, which makes things more fun, I think, too. So to go with the bar patterns of 2, 4, 8, and so on, is how I divide up and structure my songs. You can see on screen that I have an A, B, C section, and so on. This is my version of the typical verse, chorus, break, and whatever else you would hear with music on the radio. My songs almost always have an intro, sometimes a pre-intro, A, B, C, sometimes D and onward sections, and an outro. I sometimes also like to add these little pinches, as I call them, which are 1 to 2 bars in between sections for silence or a little sound effect. All of these sections are usually 16-ish bars, which means all of the parts I record can fit into them like puzzle pieces, and I can easily reference melodies by pasting them all over the song. Once I get enough going on, I'll add parts in again, coming in the form of A2 and B2 sections and so on. This is just the section again, but, bigger. More stuff, the good stuff. A sections are often the main parts, B sections are usually like in between transition sections, C sections are usually the ones where it's like long musical tangents doing these big build-ups up and down on the piano, building up back to the main section or the A section. So again, just more and more cool stuff for me to keep improvising over. To be honest, my entire time writing music has just been variations of this process, just making stuff up on the fly. So much so that I find it very hard to imagine what others do. Maybe everyone else is doing the same, I have no idea. Whatever's the most fun. Guys, don't forget, music is supposed to be fun. Oddly enough, that was something I had to remind myself a lot in school. Music is my favorite thing ever. There is a huge difference between writing music for yourself and for others or work. Or worse, a grade. I remember my bros and I would joke in class saying stuff like, "How did I get here?" or "I don't even like music," or "What's music?" during some of our bigger and extremely demanding assignments. So yeah, music is supposed to be fun, whether you're listening or writing. So let me get back to the footage here. Another thing you'll notice is that once I record a part I like, I'm moving around the MIDI notes a bit. This is me quantizing each part. Quantizing. Since I'm playing all the parts in real time, all the notes are totally natural and have that nice human element to them. All the notes have different velocities, that being how strongly they are played, and they all just flow to what I'm hearing while I play. However, since I'm only human, the parts are not always exact to the grid I'm playing on. So once I like the recording, I just quantize them to quickly conform them to better align with this grid. That doesn't take away from the authenticity, which I really like, and sometimes I don't bother quantizing at all, like if I'm writing swing music, for example. But yeah, the notes sound very human, and I think that comes from me. I actually almost always have my eyes closed when I'm playing piano. Not when I'm on the laptop, of course, but while I'm playing, my eyes are usually closed, and that just adds elegance, ambiance, and more humanity. So let's see here. You know what? Another ultra epic strat is reverb. Bro, that's literally my Frank's hot sauce. Every track in my song has reverb, and it makes the sound feel like it has space, I also have an EQ cutting out all the super low frequencies, and I cut out whatever I don't need during the final mix. The reason I cut out all the lows right away on every track is because those particular frequencies are unnecessary, I think, for my stuff, and also you can't even hear them in headphones, which is what I listen to while writing. Actually, I didn't even get speakers until just a couple months ago. I'd write all my stuff in headphones, and then when I would present it in class or play it out loud, it's like an earthquake. So now I just cut it all out unless I think I might need it later. Even though I have speakers, I still like my hand-me-down headphones I've been using for years, and I switch over to speakers only when I do my final mix. And since I got speakers, I think my mixes have actually improved quite drastically. But I still love my headphones. The ones I use regularly aren't anything fancy. They're just a pair my dad gave me years ago from his work. They just sort of appeared one day and he was like, "Here you go, Lamau." I don't even see a brand on them. They're just some random generic headphones, but I've been using them for all of my years composing and also quite a few years back when I was studying piano privately. Does anyone else get attached to their stuff though? Like, I'd feel bad for my headphones if I used others. And I know I also give like a little warm smile and love tap to my keyboard when I finish a project, like as if it were like my teammate or something. That probably sounds so weird. But again, like I can't be the only one, right? Okay. Back to it. Let's see. So I've got a bit of EQ, sometimes some fun little echoes, and reverb, the obvious best effect of them all. Sorry, I don't make the rules. Speaking of echo, that's what I use on my iconic tambourine sound, the one I use in just about every song I write. I have this enormous folder of sounds I've acquired over the years, this literal abyss of audio, endless choices and combinations, and yet I use the same 6 samples in every song. One of which being Tambourine 4, my trusty companion. I always have 2 tracks with the same tambourine sound, one reversed and one normal with an echo effect, and I use it for transitioning between song sections or variations of all the loopable parts. Now that I've mentioned that, you can never unhear it. Never underestimate the all-seeing power of the almighty Tambourine 4. In addition to the legendary tambourine, are a variety of other audio samples I use. These are pieces that aren't recorded on the fly by me. I just drag them in from the bottomless pit of sounds and add effects as I would with MIDI. These ones are fun as I can just drag them around the grid until I get a rhythm I like. This particular song doesn't use it, but I always use the same big bass drum and crash cymbal. If it works, right? So these audio samples are the purple tracks, and that actually brings me to how I organize my sessions. I actually didn't start doing this until maybe 6 months ago-ish. By default, Ableton assigns a random color to any new track, so my sessions would just be a chaotic and random rainbow of tracks, and they would staircase down the duration of the song. It was kind of terrible. I think I used to like this as it was cool to associate random colors with the melodies, but now I cringe. I remember I didn't like grouping my tracks because I always wanted to be able to see everything, and my sessions were always so much bigger than my peers. But no, now I'm less cringe, and I organize my sessions. The audio samples always go at the top and are purple. I call this group drums, but it's also home to any sound effect, just anything that is an audio sample. No MIDI to be found here, none at all. Next is the dark blue being the strings. After that is sort of like a medium blue for brass, though I don't use any in this song. Then is a light blue for winds, and then a turquoise for percussion. This is for any drum part that I record as MIDI, such as timpani or percussion like marimba or glockenspiel, but it's also sort of the miscellaneous dump anything here folder. This is where if I have any choir parts recorded, this is where they end up, because they just don't fit anywhere elsewhere, and I like the color scheme I have going on, so I don't want to add more colors for just a choir. Next is green for the pads, which is the ambient synthetic textures I use in the background, and finally yellow for pianos and keys. All of my sessions now have this layout every time, no exceptions, even if large sections are missing. Like if I only have piano and strings in a section, it will just be dark blue and yellow. Once I have enough of each instrument, I start grouping them together. I used to hate the way this looked, but now I find it very satisfying to look at while I listen. Once I'm happy with the song, it's time to mix. Sometimes I'll do it right away, but more often than not, I'll put it away and mix the song later in the day, or even more often the next day, depending on how long the production is. This is just to give my ears a little break and approach the mix with a fresh perspective. But I'm also one of those people who if I finish something too quickly, I feel like I wasn't productive long enough. Since I was done writing the song in around 45-ish minutes this time, I thought I might as well do some mixing right away. This is when I switch to my speakers and just listen. I make small adjustments to each track's volume and EQ, most of that being cutting the really ringy high frequencies from the mallet percussion. I also go in and do some automation, adding in volume, fade-ins, and outs, which are represented by the red line you can see on screen. I personally love fading in the legato strings. I like to imagine the bows are playing the note gradually, like I'm doing the action right now, but that's what I'm imagining. I listened through quite a few times. I check that I'm not losing too many dynamics, and I hit a ceiling of always, minus 0.30 decibels. Even though some of my music is bombastic and some is soft, they're actually all the same volume, and that's where my mastering template comes in from earlier. I make a few tweaks to it, often being the brightness and the overall volume. I don't do anything fancy, just a few consistent minor tweaks, and that's literally it. If it sounds good, it's good. The end. Usually a mix of my own takes about 15 or so minutes, sometimes more if the song is especially long or dense. I think mixing and mastering is a little overhyped. That might be a hot take. I don't know. I enjoy the writing process so much more, and mixing is just more of something I have to get through. That doesn't mean that I dislike it in any way though, but I strongly believe that a good mix can't save a bad song. You know, the song itself, I think, is most important. We would have these mixing challenges in school where we would mix some stems that our professors would give us, and we all loved it. My bros would add so much compression, distortion, and brightness, and then there was me. I would literally just go in with like a volume balance and hand it in as is, and when we'd share them, they'd be like, "Whoa, like, what did you put on the drums?" And I'd be like, "Bruh, nothing." Just use your ears, make it sound good, keep it simple. And yeah, there's no shame to that. You don't need a ton of effects to make it cool. That's the same philosophy I use for all my projects. Just needs to sound nice. So that keeps my mixing sessions quite short and efficient. This is also great because it means I'm not blasting cinematic music to all my neighbors. I've been in my current apartment for a while now, and I haven't gotten any complaints. But I would never blast them at night or anything. I give the tracks a few more critical listens, and then it's done. Time to give it a dramatic name and export. Or bounce, that's what we always call it. From here, I would do a little drawing for it, which is usually what I do at the end of the day to sort of unwind. And yeah, listening to the track while making a visual is such a nice way to relax after a long day of work for me. And that brings us to the end. That might have been a lot to digest, but I hope you enjoyed us just chilling out. This video was fun for me to make because it's like we're hanging out and we're writing a song together. Like I mentioned before, this was more of a behind the scenes of my process rather than a tutorial, but if anyone wants that type of content, whether that be about writing, mixing, hell, even like the drawing, I'd be happy to make it. I have no idea how this will do. I just felt like trying it out since I recently discovered OBS is way easier to use than I thought. So I'm just streaming the work I'm already doing, so please feel free to let me know if you like or want more of this kind of stuff. This was actually really fun for me and gives me a chance to talk more, you know? And if you made it this far in the video, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe learned something. Maybe it can give you some inspiration for your own music or project if you so desire. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, and cheers, guys.